Okay, so first of all, I'm really sorry I haven't uploaded in a while. I had lots of tests going on, so not a lot of free time, but I'm back with lots of free time, which means lots of videos in the pipeline, so stay tuned for that. Hey, what's up guys, Madan here, back with another video, and for the last couple of years, Motorola has been killing it in the budget end, and the Moto G and the Moto E were some of the best devices you could get your hands on in terms of budget, until now. This is the OnePlus X. As of right now, the absolute undisputed king of budget phones. So the OnePlus 2 and the OnePlus 1 try to bring a flagship feel to a mid-range price, and the OnePlus X tries to do something like that by bringing a premium feel to a $250 budget. And they do this by constructing out of materials like glass and metal. So the front and back of the OnePlus X are made of this 2.5D glass, which sort of curves onto the metal band. This sort of reminds me of the iPhone 4 and the 4S. But yeah, the phone feels really solid on the hand, and that curve sort of gives it a unibody feel, and it's got some weight to it. And the glass is also super smooth, so yeah, it feels great in the hand, but it's a big fingerprint magnet, so if that matters to you, you should totally go with the white version, which will show less smudges. Another side effect of having that super smooth glass is that the phone will literally slide off any surface you put it on, and that is a big problem. But I guess OnePlus already knows this, because they've thrown in this really flexible case with the phone, which is kind of nice, but I'd still prefer skin, because the case kind of covers up that metal band, and you lose the premium feel that they're trying so hard to get you. So the layout of the OnePlus X is pretty standard. So you've got the power and volume keys on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side there's the alert cider, which is actually pretty good to see even at this lower price point. And then, of course, there's the headphone jack at the top, the micro USB port, and the speaker is housed at the bottom. And speaking of the speaker, only the one on the left-hand side is the speaker. And overall, the speaker is decent. I mean, it can get pretty loud, but the louder it gets, the more it distorts sound. And at max volume, it produces a sort of tinny sound. It doesn't sound all that great. So that was one thing to keep in mind. Under the hood, the OnePlus X has got a Snapdragon 801 chip with 3 GB of RAM and an Adreno 330 GPU. That is some flagship level stuff, man. But hey, I'm not complaining because the performance was an absolute beast. Now, the display is generally where budget phones tend to be compromised. Other manufacturers tend to put in a 720p or even a 480p screen on their budget phones. But OnePlus just went completely rogue and put in a 5-inch 1080p AMOLED display. So this is easily the OnePlus X's best feature. I'm a huge fan of OLED because it produces inky blacks and it saves battery. And to take complete advantage of that OLED display, OnePlus tried to put in black wherever possible, like everywhere possible. So they designed a whole ton of new wallpapers just for this phone, and they're designed primarily out of black. There's also a dark theme going on across the whole OS. So there's a black background in the settings app, there's a black background in the app drawer, and even a black background in the app folders. And it might seem like this won't cause a great improvement in battery life, but I tested it out. So for an entire week, I went without the dark theme and took a bright, colorful wallpaper instead. And basically what I noticed was that this 2500 mAh battery, which is on the phone, would give me about 3.5 hours of screen on time with the dark theme and the dark wallpaper. But for the entire week that I switched to the light theme and the light wallpaper, I noticed that this figure dropped to about 2 hours 50 minutes to 3 hours tops of screen on time. And that is a huge reduction. An interesting thing about the battery was that on days where I had moderate usage, not light usage, moderate usage, you know, like maybe 5 to 10 calls a day, a bit of video watching, a little bit of web browsing, stuff like that, I'd end the day with 30% battery left. 30%. Now, obviously, this number dropped the moment I started doing more intensive stuff, like gaming and more video watching. On those kind of days, I'd end with maybe 10% left. Still kind of impressive, because my day goes from about 7 a.m. to 12 a.m. the next day. So if I can end the day with 10% left, I'm pretty sure your average user could end with more than 10% left. Performance was fantastic. It was fluid, it was clean, it was snappy, but there were a couple of lags here and there, and I'll come to that in just a second. Before that, let me tell you a bit about the software. So the OnePlus X runs Oxygen OS 2.2, and well, first of all, OnePlus is great when it comes to software updates. I've got maybe 3 to 4 software patches in the last 3 months that I've had this phone, and every time a bug pops up, it's usually patched within a week. So props to OnePlus for that. So the main problem I have with the software is a really small bug, but it hasn't been fixed in like the last 3 months. Basically, anytime you try to toggle airplane mode or flashlight from the quick settings bar, the phone just glitches over. It starts to hang, it drops frames, it glitches, and occasionally it's even rebooted. Like I said, it's small, but it's really annoying. Anyway, this phone is technically built on Android 5.1 Lollipop, but that didn't prevent OnePlus from including features from Android Marshmallow. For example, App Permissions is a Marshmallow feature that's built right into Oxygen OS. So App Permissions allows me to decide what apps get access to what features. So if I wanted to, I could prevent Snapchat from accessing the camera, which is totally stupid, but I could. And then of course there's all the customization you could imagine. So just like on the OnePlus 2, you can customize almost every part of your software experience. So you could get rid of the dark mode across the entire operating system. You could change the accent color to something you like a little bit more, and mess with the LED notification colors for a particular app. You can also change the toggles in quick settings and get rid of ones you don't really use, like perhaps cast screen, and add something else that you might use. One particularly interesting personalization feature that's on Oxygen OS is the ability to use icon packs. So on the OnePlus X, I could press and hold on the Spotify app and then drag it over to the top right where it says Edit, and then I could rename Spotify Apple Music, and then I could tap on that logo and select an icon pack and scroll down to something I might like more, like say Pandora Music, and then boom, instant confusion. And then you could also choose between off-screen and on-screen navigation keys. You could swap the order of the recent and back buttons. You could choose what a long press or double tap of the home, recent, or back buttons do. So like I said, every customization feature that's on the OnePlus 2 is on the OnePlus X, which is kind of interesting when you think about it, because the OnePlus 2 is the company's flagship device, and the OnePlus X is the lower priced budget variant. And most companies would try to differentiate between the higher priced flagship device and the budget phone by, for example, not including a particular software feature. OnePlus, on the other hand, didn't do this. Every software feature that's on the OnePlus 2 is on the OnePlus X, because at the end of the day, what they're trying to give you is a premium device for a cheap price. And this is a great way to do that. There's also the SIM card to talk about. Now, this phone is sealed in, so you get a SIM ejector tool to pop out that SIM card tray. And the SIM card tray can hold either 2 nano SIM cards or 1 nano SIM card and 1 micro SD card. So expandable storage up to 128 gigabytes or another SIM card. The choice is yours. And finally, there's something that I wasn't expecting to be this good, and that's the camera. Now, most budget phones tend to screw up in the camera department, but this one is actually not that bad. So this is a 13 megapixel camera that shoots at f2.2, and starting with the camera app, the interface is pretty much exactly the same as you have on other OnePlus devices. So you tap on that 3-dot menu to choose between Beauty, HDR, and Clear Image, and then you swipe up or down to toggle between your menus. And manual mode stuck around, which is great to see. Yeah, sharpness was decent, but I did notice that sometimes color accuracy was a bit off, so it tended to oversaturate colors, especially wooden colors and yellow colors. They just got really blown out of proportion. And speaking of blowing things out of proportion, HDR on the OnePlus X is actually a whole lot more tame than on the OnePlus 2. HDR on the OnePlus 2 was just exploding colors all over the place. But this one is a bit more realistic, which is great. When it gets into low light, again, not that bad. It doesn't fall apart completely, but it does lose a lot of the sharpness. So it relies on image processing to sort of pull back some of the details, and it's visibly worse, but it does a decent job. But when it comes to natural light, holy crap, this phone is good. I was completely blown over. I didn't expect something even half as good. Take a look at this picture, for example. This is taken without clear image, or beauty, or HDR. So I tried to zoom in to see if it would pixelate, but no, the image processing is fantastic. And it's not just this one picture. Any picture where there's natural light, this phone does a great job of retaining detail. Again, it's not up to the image quality of a Galaxy S7 or an iPhone, but at less than 1/3 the price of both of those phones, it's incredible that this is even 2/3 as capable as a Galaxy S7. So right about now, this phone's probably starting to look like a pretty sweet deal, almost like a replacement for your old Nexus 5 or your Moto X first gen. But hear me out, this is a $250 phone, and no matter how good it does seem, you're not going to get the specs of a flagship. So obviously, they've cut plenty of corners to get you this phone at a $250 price. So some of the stuff they've omitted are things like 5 GHz Wi-Fi, no NFC, no USB Type-C, and no bands 7 and 12, which will affect you if you're an AT&T or T-Mobile customer. Basically what happens is the 4G LTE runs on these bands. So if you don't have those two bands, you're probably not going to get too much of LTE, which could be a problem for some people. And there's also no 4K video, even though this is a 13 megapixel camera. So there you have it. Best and the worst of the OnePlus X. If you can survive without fast charging or wireless charging or fast wireless charging, then I have no problems recommending this phone. And if you know what you're getting into, this is a go. Either way, that's been it. Like I said at the beginning of this video, there are a ton of new videos coming out within the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that and subscribe so you can be the first one to watch that when it comes out. And also, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up down below. Helps a lot. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Ciao.